For this day.
Good evening. This is Maestro Cortello with yet another Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we have a 2v2 on Medean Cliff Mines. Our first player is Fankater, as this slightly tanky Commissar Lord. He's a melee hero, fights in melee, definitely ties a lot of stuff up. Is a little faster, he's got speed 5.5 instead of speed 5. Has a free energy shield, but it is weaker than most other energy shields. Has some interesting abilities. He can execute his own troops. He can execute enemy troops with certain abilities. He can be stubborn, and he can also use the Emperor's Wrath, the Wrath of the Emperor himself. Fankater's teammate is samefartyzeroskilla, quite a ridiculous name. Playing as this orc warboss, can't get a great look at him. Let's instead get a sort of a combat look since he's about to engage. The Warboss is a tanky melee hero, very tough, very tanky, carries a twin link shooter in his hand and a chain axe in the other. He can stomp, he can charge, he can get heavy armor and become stupidly tanky. He's a really good hero, can also use his choppas on himself as well as his allied units. Their opponents, first we have Kickin as this Warlock about to attack that Warboss, but he actually gets stomped. Looks like the Warlock not doing too well in this engagement. He's choosing to run away. Fleets right there. The Warlock is a melee hero, but can also use spells. He can be a tanky melee hero or a spellcaster with spells like Destructor, Immolate, Ethereal Slash, whatever. Here he's getting dangerous close to dying, and I think he will get wiped, and he does in fact get wiped. Kickin's teammate is none other than Toilailee, one of the best heroes, one of the best players in this game, playing one of the coolest heroes in the game, Sindri, Trollface, Chaos Sorcerer. This trickster also fights in melee, kind of like he's somewhat like the Warlock in that he fights in melee, and yet can also cast spells, but he definitely leans more on the spellcasting side than the melee damage side. There he uses one of his spells, Doom Bolts, to get some of those shooter boys down on health, and now he is about to engage them in melee. Has to watch out for the sluggers though, so he doesn't die. Alright, so we have a 2v2 right here. I'm in a mood for exciting 2v2s. I just cast another one right before this. Right? The Warboss goes down right there. I often find that usually on any given day, the first game that I cast in a given day is not going to be that great of a cast. Both my brain will be off, and I won't even have as much energy. And once I actually start getting more into the groove, that's when things start getting a little bit better. In addition to being in the mood for seeing exciting 2v2s, I'm also in the mood for the Chaos Sorcerer, and especially seeing great players play my favorite hero. So we did see some Doom Bolts going down right there. We did see a lot of use of Doom Bolts. Some people have been talking about Doom Bolts recently in chat, in-game. They've been saying it's too good, they're frustrated, and I mean, to be honest, it is an extremely good ability. It's one of the highest damage potentials for a Tier 1 offensive spell. To be honest, higher damage potential than even Tier 2 and than many Tier 2 offensive spells. It has extremely long range, and you can actually spam it because you can consume heretics to keep getting energy back for the Sorcerer. And you know, it's one of those things where I play the Sorcerer, so you might think I have to say like, well, it has all these good things, but, and I mean there are a few buts. You can sort of micro away from the Doom Bolts. And the main other but to Doom Bolts is that it doesn't help the Sorcerer deal with single-entity tanky melee heroes in Tier 1, which is really his main weakness, especially one of his main weaknesses, certainly in Tier 1. But for the purpose that Doom Bolt serves, which is area of effect damage and crowd control against infantry units, it's extremely good, no doubt about it. Like, for its purpose, it's fantastic. Very powerful spell. More Doom Bolts going off right there. Toilailee definitely showing off the use of that. He does have Aspiring Champion Heretics. Getting an Aspiring Champion on your Heretics, like, it's very, very helpful. It increases the survivability of the squad dramatically. And we're talking about a squad that, even when you have the Aspiring Champion, it's a very easy squad to lose. Very, very weak. They have even less health in Elite than in Retail. And they were already one of the definitely very squishy squad in Retail. Looks like fankater might get a little bit of a gen bash over here. Now, fankater, I think he actually did not buy a Sentinel. I must have missed it in most of the early game, but I don't think he bought a Sentinel, which is definitely surprising. The Sentinel is it's an extremely good unit. It's what I call a core unit. That means it's very much central to Imperial Guard strategy and how to play it. I mean, I've been playing a little bit of Imperial Guard myself, but I've yet to try a non-Sentinel build with Imperial Guard. And that's not to say that it's not possible and that it can't work, but I mean, the Sentinel is just so extremely good that I mean, you're definitely really trying something a little innovative if you don't get it.
You just need to find an edge.
So again, more Doom Bolts. There are a lot of different ways to play the Sorcerer. Certainly the cheapest and most cost-effective way to play him in Tier 1 is to primarily use him for Doom Bolts, keeping him at long range, using Heretics to support that, while, if anything, you move forward with your Chaos Space Marines. One of the other main ways to play is by getting the Vestments of the Warp and using him as a melee tie-up. This is something that has lower damage potential, much lower damage potential, but actually gets the Sorcerer more levels, since Doom Bolts tend to not really get model kills. And it also gives you some versatility with being able to tie up units like Shu does. Gives you a setup team counter, a pretty good setup team counter. But Toilailee is going with the more cost-effective route. Toilailee does get, he actually lost one of his Heretic squads. He's in Tier 2, going for War Gear upgrades instead of units first. And wow, these Heretics come extremely close to wiping this Slugger squad. And Toilailee even going for a wipe, but no. Doom Bolt's not really good for killing single entity units, or single entities, period. That was just a single unit right there. So I've definitely been focusing a bit on Toilailee, a bit of that bias. I have a bit of that bias when I'm playing when I'm casting my own games, because it's me. And here a little bit of a bias because Toilailee's playing the Sorcerer. Catachan's getting very low on health. Definitely need to be careful about that. Now, Catachans, something about the way they're designed, they actually do not start losing most of their models until most of the squad is already ready to die. I mean, here we have the squad basically only has a fifth of its health, but it still has 5 out of 8 models. So we definitely don't have... Those ratios are definitely not in proportion. But, I mean, basically, if you overextend the squad, that's when you really will start taking bleed with the Catachans. Artillery Spotter Squad for fankater. We see that in part because it's a hard setup team counter, and Imperial Guard was certainly lacking for hard counters to setup teams in Retail. That's part of the reason the unit was implemented. And also because Kickin, of course, does have this Guardian weapon team, and also because setup teams are just very, very common in Eldar play. Wow! Oh man, that would have been awesome if that guardsman did die, gets out of there with 3 health. It would have been awesome, at least for Kickin and also for viewers. Just the use of double grenades, and both of them actually hitting. Now, both of the grenades actually hit, but it just didn't take out that Imperial Guard Sergeant. So, we're in Tier 2. Chimera now out for fankater. This is another core Imperial Guard unit. Again, I actually think it's a little bit easier to go without a Chimera than to go without a Sentinel. Although the Sentinel, I mean the Chimera, if anything, I think is a little bit better. Since it has better synergy. Ooh, Catachan model's definitely now dying. Choosing to just reinforce instead of go back and heal. I mean, fankater now taking a lot of bleed from his Catachans. This is something about his play that I'm actually not too sure about. Taking a lot of Catachan bleed. He gets the field presence, but he's going to start bleeding horribly. Now those guardsmen reinforced for chump change. Right now, fankater has sergeants on both of them, so he will be reinforcing 2 guardsmen for 19 requisition, which is it's the second most cost-effective reinforce in the game. The most cost-effective reinforce is when you also have a Commissar and you get 3 guardsmen for 19 requisition. But these Catachan Devils are not cheap at all to reinforce. I mean, it is only something like 30 requisition, but that's for those models, for how many models you might have to reinforce. That is a lot of bleed. And then perhaps even more, I don't know, whatever. Even worse than the requisition bleed from the Catachans is the power bleed. It costs power to reinforce those Catachan models. Fankater now definitely getting something of a Gen Bash off, but Wraith Guard are out on the field. Wraith Guard scare me. I've been playing Imperial Guard a little bit. I do not yet really know. There's definitely some matchups where I do just fine in. Eldar is not one of them. I don't quite yet know how... well, I guess I have some theoretical ideas for how Fankater could deal with these Wraith Guard. For one, he is playing as the Commissar Lord, so he could use flares to reduce the range of the Wraith Guard and then focus fire them. Might want to get some plasma guns on his guardsmen to do bonus damage to the heavy infantry of the Wraith Guard. Fankater, when he can afford it, he might also want to invest in Ogrins because the main counter to Wraith Guard are melee units. So I've been focusing a lot over here. Now I haven't even been paying attention to Toilailee. Toilailee running extremely lean. Still hasn't gotten... He hasn't gotten a single tier 2 unit. He's only gotten war gear. He does have a fully kitted out Sorcerer, Demon Armor, Rod of Warfire, and the Icon of Tzeentch. Not a common build at all. Not one that I commonly use. I've certainly used all of these war gears, but I have not even used these 3 war gears in combination with each other. So that Demon Shield did put down that shield right there. Will break suppression as well as reducing incoming range damage. It also increases the energy of the Sorcerer, which is actually very helpful for increasing the Sorcerer's Doombolt's damage, since Doombolt damage actually scales with his energy pool. And some crazy things have happened over here. The Wraith Guard are nearly dead. What does Fankater have out on the field? He might actually want to take out his guardsmen, since I think guardsmen outside will do more damage than guardsmen inside. And I think it will actually take out those Wraith Guard. And it does, in fact. That's a huge blow for Kickin, considering, I mean, he definitely just, regardless of how you deal with the Wraith Guard, Kickin was at an advantage with those Wraith Guard out on the field. Without those Wraith Guard, he's now, if anything, at a bit of a disadvantage. Does not have AV. And he does not have AV. Fankater's units can reinforce on the field. He's got basically he still has counters to that Guardian weapon team, even though Fankater lost his artillery spotter squad. So Fankater getting another Gen Bash off, starts repairing. Kickin says traded power, so I guess Kickin got a power bash while he was down here. But when he says traded power, I guess that means that he lost power in the process. Alright, so Toilailee holds against samefartyzeroskilla with the Sorcerer, a Chaos Heretic squad, and a Chaos Space Marine squad that does not even have a mark, does have Eternal War, and the Aspiring Champion. Now that's something I've traditionally not agreed with, but if there are any races where you can justify not getting a mark, those 2 races would be definitely... Orcs are one of them, Eldar would be another. Imperial Guard is actually a little bit more iffy, since getting a mark is going to be extremely helpful against the Sentinel, as well as Ogrins if your opponent chooses to get them. Mark of Khorne Space Marines are actually decent against the Chimera. A lot of stuff died here. Fankater lost a Guardsman squad. Must have been a grenade from those dire Avengers. I actually don't know why. Oh, the heavy weapon team de-set up because they did not want to eat a grenade. Right now, Kickin is kind of letting this Chimera be uncountered. You might want to get a Bright Lance. I mean, obviously it is always... I mean, personally, I don't even like to sacrifice losing your suppression for... I don't really like to give up the suppression, but I mean, right now, again, this Chimera is uncountered. Kickin is trying to use grenades, but those grenades simply don't do enough. And I mean, it's actually much too easy for Fankater to just move his grenades out of there, but he's gonna lose. Fankater, wow, Fankater just about loses that heavy weapon team, comes very close. Not even a single model loss in the heavy weapon team. I thought he was gonna lose the heavy weapon team there, given the fact that they were in all that fire, but the immolate from that immolator blade just barely ended. All right, so Toilailee does not even get units until tier 3, has this Havoc, upgrading to the Mark of Khorne, which is supposed to increase damage in a number of areas, mainly supposed to increase the bolter damage. Recently, I checked the Codex section on the new website for the Elite mod, which is dawnofwar.info, and according to that, the autocannon on the Khorne Predator actually does less damage than the default and autocannon. I don't know if that's correct. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, I guess right now I'm going to trust it. But that's actually something, I mean, if anything, that actually doesn't seem worth it to me. Since, I mean, one of the great things about the Predator is the anti-vehicle capabilities of it. Not just the anti-vehicle capabilities, but the anti-all capabilities. But if anything, I'd say it's more important to have a Predator with anti-tank, an emphasis on anti-tank functionality than anti-infantry functionality. I mean, of course, you can choose. And since I obviously have my own opinions on what I think is important, I'm more likely to pick the Mark of Tzeentch or to leave it vanilla than to get the Mark of Khorne. So this Chimera still out on the field for fankater. It's been unopposed. There now is a Fire Prism that can do damage to the Chimera from range. I personally think the Fire Prism is a fantastic unit. It is certainly a glass cannon, though, and you can lose it easily if you are not careful. But it is good because, especially with a stronger standing army, you can really keep the Fire Prism behind your entire army, practically outside of sight range, and you will just be doing absolutely murdering your opponent's army. So a lot of things happening right here. Chimera finally goes down, taking shots from both the Predator and the Fire Prism, also an Eldritch Storm, so fankater definitely taking some losses. Gets a new Guardsman squad. His new Guardsman squad actually does have the Commissar, so Kickin and Toilailee, I'd say, is in a slightly better position now, since now Kickin has the advantage over fankater, certainly with a Fire Prism, and fankater only having Guardsmen and Catachans. Right now, Kickin and Toilailee also have a field presence advantage. All these heretics in here, very late game heretics. I'm surprised Toilailee gets another heretic squad. And that Fire Prism, so already proving its worth. But has to be careful for this Warboss. I think the Fire Prism has been using its Focus Blast. I mean, one of the other great things about the Fire Prism is that you get good, with the Focus Blast, you get good mobile AV from an absolutely ludicrous range. Oh, and we do have Icon of Tzeentch. I love seeing Icon of Tzeentch, and it does take out one of the guards. It takes out both Guardsman squads. So, oh man. Fankater getting hit incredibly hard. Oh, Jesus. So Toilailee still keeping his Chaos Space Marines with no mark. At this point in the game, I feel like he could get a mark. He has the resources. Maybe he wants yet another unit. And, I mean, he still has the population that will allow him to get more units. He's being really aggressive with those Chaos Space Marines. Imagine how aggressive he could be with Khorne Chaos Space Marines. I like upgraded Chaos Space Marines. That's why I'm trying to sell you on it. Toilailee obviously doing very well even without them. Oh, these Havoc's in a lot of trouble right now. But Icon of Tzeentch on them. And wow, that could be a wipe on the Slugger Boys. No, it won't be, actually. But it certainly takes out the models. Now, this Sorcerer does also have that Rod of Warpfire. One of the interesting things about the Rod of Warpfire is that the range damage for the Rod of Warpfire has been buffed in the Elite mod. So now you actually have the Sorcerer actually doing decent range damage with the Rod of Warpfire. But I definitely do mean decent. And it's decent, not that great considering it's a tier 2 upgrade. If it were a tier upgrade, that would be extremely good, giving the Sorcerer both decent melee damage as well as decent range damage. It would also probably make the Rod of Warpfire the go-to weapon choice, and the Sword of Flame would become a lot more niche. Although the Sword of Flame definitely still has uses with Coruscating Flame being a melee counter. The Fire Prism is using the Focus Blast there, but it needs to actually... Yeah, there it switches to the Disperse Blast. That Disperse Blast will do area of effect damage and knock down the entire squad instead of shooting and missing. Predator moving way too close to these tank busters. Luckily, this Havoc squad will set up does not suppress the Slugger Boys. That's going to be bad. That's going to be a dead Havoc. So Toilailee loses the Havoc, gets them set up a little too close, so definitely some losses for Toilailee, as well as this Heretic squad getting down to the last 3 models. Switches out the Demon Shield now for the Vestments of the Warp, so this is going to be a slightly more traditional build, and it will allow the Sorcerer to better chase after those straggler models after he uses the Icon of Tzeentch. Warboss, meanwhile, does have the Power Claw and the Angry Bits. Definitely 2 of the best warriors you can get for the Warboss. Samefartyzeroskilla cannot yet afford the heavy armor. This Battle Wagon is going to chase down that Predator and kill it. So that will be the end of that Chaos Predator, and Toilailee does not... He doesn't have enough AV to even... Wow! Oh, so I thought what he was going to do, that should be a dead Predator. 1 more shot? Yes. I thought that Predator was actually going to get out of there by virtue of the infiltration from Tzeentch, but the Tzeentch worship, but then the Tzeentch worship just stopped working, so the Battle Wagon got another shot off. Wow. Dead Catachan Devils. Why do I always miss? Wow. Another squad loss for fankater. Fankater losing everything in a terrible position. I'm guessing it was a singularity that took out that Catachan Devil squad, because it looked like all of those models died. Fankater not happy. It looks like he said some things. I don't know if that was actually whatever language he speaks or if he was just mashing the keyboard. I don't mean that. I don't really try to mean that as a joke. I legitimately don't know. Chaos Space Marines level 4, still no mark. Could get a mark, especially when they're level 4 already and have Eternal War. They would be getting a ridiculous damage increase from getting a mark. And Toilailee can afford it too. But Toilailee might just be prioritizing units. Oh, if we could get like a stomp, that could be... oh, doesn't matter. Just dead tank buses right there. More just showing off the use of the Icon of Tzeentch. Icon of Tzeentch, certainly best against the Imperial Guard, but as you can tell, still extremely good against Orcs too. And this could be another... That's gotta... Yeah, that has to be another dead Orc squad for samefartyzeroskilla. If he unworships... Yeah, he doesn't even have to unworship the Heretics. Now he should, though. Give them a Doom Blast. Maybe have that Great Unclean One come back there, but instead he uses the suppression from the Doom Blast to guarantee a... Oh, man. Yet another... Let's see, Cloud of Flies, or that's... Whatever it is. Yeah, has Icon of Tzeentch. He needs to actually do something with it. He lets those die. Just end up going with the splash damage. Oh, that could have... No model losses, so that wouldn't have killed those sluggers, even if the Icon of Tzeentch was active there. So, Fankater gets a Manticore now. Not a bad choice. Certainly a hard-hitting choice. Will help to deal with the Guardian weapon teams. The Fire Prism apparently died at some point. But Kickin could also be very aggressive with his avatar that he now has out on the field, and just straight up go for the Manticore if he decides to be that brazen.
My weapon is properly upgraded.
D-Cannon right here. Now also, he finally decides to get that Bright Lance. I think that Bright Lance might have been a little lower, might have been long overdue. Since he really only has it for the Battle Wagon at this point. And the Battle Wagon, frankly, should definitely still be able to survive against the Bright Lance. But the Battle Wagon is certainly not in a great position now. Gonna be can't take Bright Lance shots, but it is around next to an Avatar and a Great Unclean One. Now the Battle Wagon can just drive away from them, but at the same time, they can keep chasing. And certainly with both an Avatar and a Great Unclean One, they could really push into base and just threaten to kill it. But instead it looks like Toilailee going for the wipe on that Slugger Boy squad. If Kickin was paying attention there, he could have wiped that Slugger Boy squad either just with the regular attack on the Avatar or a Wailing Doom. Certainly would need to be a very well-timed Wailing Doom, would be harder. This Avatar just getting in right here, going to start taking damage. But I think if they were going to do this, then they would want to push forward with both the Avatar and the Great Unclean One. One big sword hit takes that Manticore down to 69 health. Despite fankater and samefartyzeroskilla having a VP lead, this could, I think this could seal the deal for fankater. Now, what would be really nice here, this avatar is nearly dead. It would be really nice if Toilailee had used the warp global to warp the avatar out of there. But as it is, Eldritch Storm takes out that that battle wagon, and that's definitely got to be the game in favor of Kickin and Toilailee. That was an absolutely this is an absolutely crazy game. It's still going, and fankater not done yet. He just takes out the Predator just because he wants to. He doesn't want to just lay down and take it. And now we have Foot of Gork. It might even take out. No, it doesn't take out that that Chaos Heretic squad. Fankater might take it out anyway. Oh, but his Commissar Lord gets disrupted. If he also had the flak jacket there, he definitely could have taken out that Heretic, that aspiring champion left on the Heretic squad. But now a triple cap for Kickin and Toilailee. You know, actually, I mean, fankater and samefartyzeroskilla still have, they actually still have a lot of units. No, they don't have a lot of units, but then neither do Kickin and Toilailee. So I'd say they might not be completely out of it yet. Especially, Guardsman here will get off the cap. And it looks like samefartyzeroskilla will just get his sluggers over here. So it looks like samefartyzeroskilla and fankater can get another cap. But now an Imperial Abyss. That's why Toilailee did not want to use his red. Imperial Abyss. Oh, that's got to be... Yeah, those Castricans are dead. No? Yes, they're dead. A rocket run just to follow it up. This is from fankater, but wow, those Dire Avengers proving to be pretty resilient to the rocket run. And I think it's actually a lot to do with the squad leader, the Dire Avenger Exarch. Since that Exarch provides a 17.5 passive damage resistance, as well as just being a much tougher model than the actual Dire Avenger models. Now a 2-cap for fankater and samefartyzeroskilla. Absolutely unbelievable. They're still in this game. Oh, and we finally have a mark upgrade. Toilailee finally gets a mark upgrade. And he gets Corncast Space Marines. Level 4 Corncast Space Marines fully upgraded are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they probably beat like vanilla Ogrins with their Bonehead. We have a level 1 Knob Squad. They might even beat the level 1 Knob Squad. Dark Flames, I think a little premature, but they're still going to walk through it, still take some damage. Any model losses? No. Oh, and Sorcerer, I guess maybe his teleport was on cooldown, so that squad did not die. Toilailee using my combinations. Level 8 Sorcerer. 1,014 health and 175 energy, so that's a pretty tough Sorcerer. Now a 1-to-1 cap, but looks like the red team will get their cap back. One of the great things about these Khorne Chaos Space Marines is that they should be able to, they'll definitely win most, if not all, one-on-one fights. Certainly, I think the main questionable one will be them against the Knobs, but even that they'll do pretty well against, to be honest. They might draw even, and even if they don't draw even, it'll be close. You know what? Frenzy will certainly put it in favor of the Knobs. Although if Frenzy is on cooldown, maybe not. 2-cap for Kickin and Toilailee, but I mean, fankater still in this game after taking some ridiculous losses. Getting the cap with his Commissar Lord, level 9 Commissar Lord, Fist of Brachus, and the Emperors of Wrath. He saves for those late game tier 3 war gears. Those really powerful war gears. The tier 3 war gears are always extremely powerful. I can't think of any that aren't. Unfortunately, it looks like the Commissar Lord will have to get out of there, or he will die. He's getting very close to dying. One more hit from that cleaver might take him out. Gets very close. 33 health. We now have a heavy weapon team and just a Dire Avenger squad right behind them. If they throw a grenade, that could be the end. Yes, there's a grenade. Does not take out that heavy weapon team, though. For some reason, we have Flamer Guardsmen. I don't know. Maybe those are just... I mean, those can't be the Guardsmen that fankater had from the start of the game, or they would have more than just one level. So I'm surprised to see Flamers. Could just be an accident. I know... Oh, some Dark Flames over here. But... Yeah, I mean, the Warboss might die. Does now have that heavy armor. And the Warboss does not die. Yeah, I think that happened because Toilailee did... Maybe he did not realize that the Warboss had heavy armor. When the Warboss has that heavy armor, it can look like he's getting really close to dying, but he might not be as close as you think. Because the health bars that are shown, they're not like an absolute value. They're basically showing the proportion, the ratio of the percentage of the health that your unit has relative to its maximum. So for the Warboss, once he has that huge health pool, even when it's fairly small, he's actually still got quite a little bit of health left. And I don't believe this. This looks like, actually now looks like fankater and samefartyzeroskilla might win this game after taking such ridiculous losses, after an Avatar pushed all the way into the base and took out a Manticore, and an Eldritch Storm took out the Battle Wagon. But the game is not over, so maybe I should stop calling it. I mean, this has been one of the toughest games to call, I think, that I've ever cast. Now, one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to have a little playlist. My top playlist soon is going to be Maestro's favorites. It's basically going to be like for the best cast that I've put on my channel, some of the best games, and this looks like one that's going to be there. Now we have double Kashkins out for fankater. He tried to cap with those Kashkins, but this new avatar from Kickin gets them off the cap. Now, fankater equipped both these Kashkins with weapon expertise, basically just increases the damage in a number of different ways. For the Helguns, it's basically just an increase in damage. What he should do, though, is that he really should get plasma guns on these Kashkins. They'll start doing bonus damage to the Avatar instead of having an enormous penalty against the Avatar. So that's definitely a huge mistake that fankater is making right there. As it is, he took out that Bright Lance that was trying to cap this point. But he has these Kashkins out, but as far as I know, their Helguns do piercing damage, which has a 70% damage reduction against the super heavy infantry armor of the Avatar. If he gets plasma guns on both of these Kashkins, instead of having a 70% penalty, they will have a 50% bonus. So that's a huge difference. And yet, fankater and Toilailee and samefartyzeroskilla look like they just might still win this game. Double cap in their favor, and it actually looks like samefartyzeroskilla is pushing Toilailee back into his base. This is really going to require this Autarch to get a decap off here, as well as these Dire Avengers to get a full cap here. They have to get a full cap. They can't get the decap. And I knew that. We were going to have Emperor's Wrath, and wow, that's going to be the game in favor. And a complete wipe on those Dire Avengers. That was an absolutely bizarre game. Definitely one of, if not the best games that I've ever cast. So, normally I would say, I hope you enjoyed this cast, but, I mean, if you didn't enjoy this cast, there's something wrong with you. Have a good night.